the Brilliant Resilient, an NFT art exhibition. Now we have someone very special with us to talk about it. Joining us today is curator of this exhibition, Kesara Ratnavibhushana. Hi Kesara, welcome.
Hi, thank you very much for having me here.
And thank you for joining us in this stunning location provided to us by Lanka, and we thank them for this. So Kesara, we'll just get right into it. Now photography has been your forte, and you've done a wide variety of photography as well. What is your relationship to art?
Well, my photography has always been sort of straying in the territory of the realm of art and sort of documentary and reportage, and also I've been particularly concerned about themes of identity, my identity, the identity of the nation, and as a global citizen, which is what I see myself as more and more, and I guess I always have. So photography has been a means for me to represent to the world what I see and what I can kind of, how I can express my observations and how I navigate the world. So I've lived in London and Sri Lanka most of my life, obviously, and that's allowed me to sort of cross over into these creative territories that as a curator, I can see dual perspectives. So I can see the perspective of the artist and the art and the observational nature of things, but also be objective and look at work, a wide variety of creative things that are sort of blossoming, especially in Sri Lanka, and being able to say, I can see where that artist is coming from. I can see where their perspective is forming, because I know primarily it's in me as well. So, and that's for me a very, very kind of instinctive thing where I can see art and I can say, wow, I can feel that, and that's partly because of I've grown up with it. My father is an architect who worked with Jeffrey Bauer very early on, so I've been used to having Jeffrey Bauer in the house and sort of architects, Barbara Sansoni, sitting with her in Cambridge and having tea and being at Barefoot, and all these cultural melting pots where we've been able to see such a growth in Sri Lanka in the creative disciplines, which are very strong. It's just we haven't perhaps reached the world as effectively as we could have until recently. There are many galleries in Sri Lanka which now are promoting Sri Lankan art and doing a very good job. But Lisa, Ray, and her partner Aisha Khan, with their curatorial lead Natasha J. Singh from India, they reached out about 6 months ago, and they told me about the platform that they were going to start, and obviously central to it was NFT art, or art that becomes an NFT. And I've been wanting to do that for a while as well, and I've been following things that are going on, and that coincided with the major crisis in Sri Lanka and how that was going. So I'd already been noticing art that was being created. I'd been creating some of it myself, but I noticed that there's this massive energy of things coming together. And I feel that it started actually with something that people find trivial, memes, right? Like I found that memes were something that Sri Lankans have kind of used to give themselves a sense of agency and laugh about how crazy things can be in this country sometimes. And it's a great vehicle, a great tool for expression. And it can be some very hard-hitting stuff as well, but it can be very frivolous seeming, but it all underpins the point of creativity blossoming, which set the stage for some really provocative, controversial, hard-hitting, visceral art that we've seen over this year coming very much to the public forefront, almost as a rallying cry for people to kind of get together and say, hey, what's going wrong with our country? Why is this situation happening? And how can we sort of build on that? So that's the origin of where I've seen things coming together.
So now NFTs are something you've been dabbling with recently. How do you think the experience was for the artists? Are these first timers dealing with NFTs, or have they some kind of experience?
So when I put the show together conceptually, and we got the support of Lisa and Aisha, and they said, yeah, that's great, let's go ahead with this theme, it sounds great. And the theme was the Brilliant Resilient, which is, it's not political art, but art that's a response to the conditions which are socio-political, economic, and so many of our times globally. You know, not just in, we have art that's sort of globally reflective, and art that is also specifically focused on what's been happening here. So a good mix of things. And reaching out to these artists, some of whom are very established artists and some of whom are very sort of emergent artists. The challenge was to say, hey, look, you know, there's this exhibition that I've conceived. You have some art that fits the theme and that would be wonderful to showcase. So they say, yeah, lovely, okay. It's for an international platform, great. But the art's going to be an NFT. And that's where, you know, the conversation sort of, there's a big silence, and I had to explain it and break it down. And it took me a good long while to get it myself as an artist. But thanks to the Upside Space and the team they have, it's been really helpful because they've put together a lot of resources as well to guide. So they sent us examples of different types of art and how that becomes an NFT, from poetry to sculpture. And then that crystallizes. So then you say, okay, this is how it works. Really, this is how it is. And because of that support, I'm able to reach the artists and say, hey, look, you know, this is an exciting opportunity. Unfortunately, it coincided with the fuel crisis. So I couldn't physically reach as many artists as possible, and we're hoping to do an exhibition which is just purely artists from the north and east of the country who are also engaging in this space and of this theme. Unfortunately, because we couldn't travel, we decided, okay, now that the situation is stabilizing, let's get back out there and let's bring more artists into the fold. So to go back to your original question, some of the artists have been doing NFTs. Some have actually sold NFTs before this. So they've got that experience, and speaking to them also really helped because they helped me understand it. It helped other artists also understand. Actually, it's something Sri Lankans have been doing. You know, it's new, but we are capable. We have been doing it. Sri Lankan artists have sold NFTs, so it's great potential and possibility. And what's amazing is that some of the established artists actually, they went ahead and they said, yeah, let's do this. You know, no one said, I'm not sure. They all said, the only thing, they just wanted to understand what it was for a second. No one ever said no. They were like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Let's see. We're really excited. And some artists, I've introduced them to sort of the team from TUS. They've got some artists who help take the works, like a physical work, and we digitize it and then make it transform it into an NFT artwork. That's what we call sort of a digital intervention, and it becomes a dynamic NFT. So you have so many levels. We can talk for hours about that, but you need to see the art, and you need to start, when you start exploring this world, you'll see how much diversity there is and artistic and creative sort of freedom there is. But some of them just got downright emotional when they were talking to the team, the digital teams in India, Singapore, and Dubai, and seeing what possibilities their physical sculptures, for example, could take on. And they're like, wow, this is so amazing. And that's just at the beginning levels, in the middle of a very, very complex crisis in Sri Lanka. And we were able to do it.
That is amazing. Another thing is, how did you kind of figure out, we have a lot of talented artists. How did you narrow it down to these 15? How did you pick and choose?
That was a challenge. I've approached probably more than 30, 35, and they were all independent artists who I knew were sort of doing their own thing in their own pace and in their own way. And that was something I was quite sort of very keen on, because there are a lot of artists who are also represented by galleries here, and those galleries do a fantastic job of getting their work out. These independent artists, however, sometimes they themselves want to do it themselves, or sometimes they're not sure, or there's so many levels to it, and I wanted to give them an opportunity as well. But mostly it was when I saw the work, I was just sort of driven to say, hey, let's do something. Some of them have done work specifically for the exhibition. Others have given me existing work. Some of them have contributed work which they've been doing for about 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but it's relevant. Right? So there's a chronology of the exhibition. When the exhibition goes live, people will see the exhibition videos and things like that. And the chronology is, it's not just what's happened this year in Sri Lanka, but globally also reflectively of artists' creative response to like very difficult philosophical questions. And that comes across from the last sort of decade, if you will. And we've got some very established artists like Anoma, Anoli Pereira, Prageet Manohansa, emergent artists. We've got an artist doing AI like Nuan Shilpa, who has been doing NFTs and was helpful to some of the other artists. He was explaining to them, so that also helped quite a bit. And we've got artists who do wearable art like Miri. We've got artists like Aditya, who basically I started trying to get her on board at the beginning, and then when there were so many problems and things like that in the country, it was difficult to get the art sort of conveyed in the right way. But then after all these months, I contacted her recently and said, hey, do you have any new work? Can we have a look?
Yeah.
And boom, it came together, right? So, and TUS were amazing again, because I would have to write to Natasha and the team and say, look, I know we've closed off as much as we can. Now we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But can I include one more artist? And it was always, let's go for it. You know, it wasn't. So that support as well is amazing, because it's easy to say. You think that would happen automatically, right? You think that would be an easy thing to do just because a marketplace comes to you. No, this is way more than that. This is way more than that, and it's a community. And it's a lot of effort. It's more than 6 months of effort coming together. So that's how we've been able to piece it
So you had a pre-launch event. How did that go?
So David and Victoria, David McKinnon is the High Commissioner of Canada in Sri Lanka, and his wife Victoria Walker. They are great supporters of the arts and have been for the last, I think, 4 to 5 years they've been in Sri Lanka. So they're leaving after their tenure. So they wanted to support the arts in some way. And Lisa Ray is a Canadian citizen, and this is something she's also backing. So there was a link there was a nexus, and the Canadian government also fosters the arts and supports. And they love the idea. And it came about that we could have a reception at Canada House for the artists to meet, and a few people who might be interested in the subject. And that just crystallized. And then I was going to ask Lisa if she could just do a video address, just so that people could sort of, you know, see her behind the scenes, and Aisha could also sort of contribute some words, and we'd have a little sort of online meet and greet, and it would be very lovely. What happened was, Lisa said, I'll come down. Will it support Sri Lanka? Will it help the artists? Will it help you guys if I come down from Dubai? And I said, yeah. Wow, this would be an amazing time for you to come down, and for us, because we need that support, we need that faith, and Sri Lanka is dear to our heart, as you've heard. So then it became something which really kind of galvanized, and yesterday the artists met, many of them for the first time, and it was amazing to see, because you'd see them in a corner chatting and making their sort of connections, and they're united by the art. And we had a poetry reading by Devika Brendan, which was sort of set the tone, and it was 1 minute and 27 seconds, I think. And I had to ask everyone to sort of just to be a little silent and just to take in the poem, which can be a challenge, right? Like, you know how it can be like, you know, people are always like, they're having conversations and things, but there was silence and people listened. And it came together, and I could see that because of the rawness and the emotion that is being conveyed, and the situation we've all been through, you know, at every level of society now, and how it's sort of, we're all interacting with how we kind of emerge stronger as a nation. And that's where the resilience comes in. And that's where the brilliant comes in, it's about the sparkle that amidst the chaos, Sri Lankans can sparkle, they can shine. We can show somebody like Lisa when she's coming down to Sri Lanka, we can show her the best side of us, and show her and talk to her about the challenges that we also face and that she also understands. And because she has that Indian heritage and South Asian heritage and has traveled so widely, she also understands deeply, as do the other members of the team. So we're all connecting regionally, internationally, and very hyper locally in Sri Lanka as well. So our issue, our challenges are being represented in this way, and it's really kind of coming to life. It's bubbling forth, and it's not just about images of Sri Lanka where there's tires burning and there's curfew and there's always something, you know, it's always something negative. Whereas we've got our problems, the world knows about them, but here are a group of artists amongst many other artists who are showcasing a deeply philosophical response and having a very personal viewpoint and feelings coming across. So that's why it's not just political art. It's very much a sense of resilience, sense of sort of becoming, a sense of wanting transformation, wanting freedom of thought. And we had a performance by the trans artist Vasi yesterday, and she did it on the lawn, and it was quite an arresting, visceral performance. And there were many members of the audience who hadn't perhaps seen that sort of art, and you know, they were, wow, this is really, like, it's challenging stuff. It's really making us think about the limits of our sort of freedom and identity and building a fair society for everyone, and that I know that's something that the Canadian High Commission is also very keen on. We take the politics aside. It's about people being able to be who they are, however, whether they want to express themselves religiously or in terms of their gender or identity, or just creatively, they have something to say, and this provided a platform for them to be able to do it. And seeing the artists coming together was wonderful. We've been very fortunate to have sold more than a few pieces now.
Wow.
The first piece actually that the Upside Space has sold even before the pre-launch.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that's amazing to me. You know, that it's Sri Lankan work of art, and they're having several exhibitions from across the region, from India to Indonesia, Bhutan, and I think to have, you know, that artwork also kind of selling is something I feel the artists also really need to. As a collective, I told them, you guys should all be proud. It's not about so and so sold or so and so sold. And yes, that's a contribution, you know, that's, putting it bluntly, that's foreign currency coming into the country through creativity. That's great. But as a collective, people want what you guys are offering, because your art isn't just individual also now. It's seen as a collective movement. It's seen as a collective group of art, and that's where the value also comes across to the collectors. And we've sold, I think, we've sold about 5 pieces of art, and many of them actually were purely digital NFTs. You know, we had a phygital exhibition because Sri Lankans like the tactility of things, and many collectors do, and that's a big part of it as well. And that's something that I think we're also keen on addressing and transcending these worlds, because there's a digital only world, there's a physical only world, and we want to find that middle ground. And I think Sri Lanka is a great place for that, because you can have the best of both, and there's this platform and this technology allows you to do that. So why not, right? And these were initially, most of them were purely digital works. So hey, wow, look, we can do that, right? We've sold a poem, which,
that's amazing.
Yeah, you know, it's remarkable. I mean, I don't know if it's the first time or whatnot, but certainly as a Sri Lankan NFT, I think these are pioneering things. So I've told the artists also that they're also pioneers in this space. There are other artists in Sri Lanka who have been doing NFTs and who have been sort of selling, and kudos to them for being able to do it. But we've also kind of, the fact that we've been able to bring them together in a very organized way, also in terms of the way the platform is structured, there's a lot of depth. That's something that really adds that layer. And then we haven't even launched, right? So in November, like there's a plan, there's a strategy, all the exhibitions will come together. We'll be part of an even bigger community. And that's really kind of built up. And just even for now, like we've got like so much exposure, so much behind the scenes, there's been so much that's gone on that it would have been incredibly difficult to do it like individually as artists. Sure. And certainly trying to do a collective independently would have been so much more challenging. So having this support, putting Sri Lanka on there, and that's partly the reason why sort of we're just having this small event for Lisa as well, and the directors of Sail Lanka and Park Street Wines have also made a contribution. in Port City, I thought, my goodness, this would be an amazing backdrop. When I approached it, I said, this would be an amazing backdrop because it's future forward, right? And Port City it's been in the news so much, and there's so many viewpoints about it. And there's so many viewpoints about every aspect of things, right? You know how this is. But we get to say, hey, look, this is Colombo, right? And it is a city that is moving forward. Problems and everything is moving forward. So it's up to the people within it to express, to blossom, and to rise to the occasion as best as they can, and for us all to confront the challenges and do what is leaving people who are getting left behind. We need to look back at that as well.
So thank you, Kesara, for that, and I wish you all the best. This is a wonderful initiative, and I hope in the future you'll organize a lot more as well.
Thank you.
So this is Kesara joining us today to talk about the brilliant, resilient, and we will see you next time. Thank you.